It's miserable. I want to
That's why we're on this. We want to find out more about our
So,
marriage.
where are you guys at? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your relationship, your marriage? How would you rate our marriage?
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what people are saying. I want to see how they're chatting with us. Yeah, so Cagayan, Mindoro, ayan. Okay, so watching from the UK, I think it's now catching on, right? What is the rating? We like doing this with couples.
Yeah.
And the way we do it is we rate it from 1 to 10. So how would you rate marriage?
Okay, so we'll do it together, right?
Ready?
This is how we do it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
5, 6. Wow, okay, maganda to. Okay, ready?
This is gonna be
3,
easy.
2. We do this with the couples also that we disciple and walk alongside. So ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Yours is 9.
Yes.
Okay, wait. But if we had asked this question maybe last week, I think mine would have been lower and yours would have been much lower, right?
Why?
So the key here is when you ask for the rating, I still have my hand.
Yeah, no, some people have 6, 8, 8 to 9, 8, 7. Wow, very honest. 4 and 10. Uy. 4 out of 10. Okay, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay, maganda
So
to.
this is going to be a great topic. So when we do this, usually with the couples that we're mentoring, we ask them, right, weekly, how is your marriage doing? And then give it a rating of 1 to 10. And it has to be spontaneous. You can't look at your spouse's rating. You have to do it at the same time.
Sometimes they'll do this. Ready, set, go. The spouse will be like, uy, naku, maganda. So, walang ganyan. Can't do that. It has to be spontaneous. Some people will do this. Ayan.
Yeah, like that,
But
8.5.
8.5. Right, yeah, or 9.5, yeah. But it's got to be spontaneous. It's got to be together. And the purpose is, it helps unlock issues. And that's what we're going to talk about, right? It helps unlock what are the things that cause it to be an 8, or in your case, some of you have 6, 7. And as we unpack that, we ask, well, what will it take to make it a
10?
A 10.
Yeah.
Right, it's a good opener. And, as we're doing it with you guys now, this is a way to help start the issues
why don't we ask
and
them?
discussions.
Maybe you can now say in the chat, why did you give it that rating, and what would make it a 10?
Right, mabigat yan. So while you're doing that, why did you
mabigat?
give it that rating, and what will make it a 10? Yeah, those are big ones, but you guys can feel free to do that. While you're putting that on the chat box, let's talk about, so when we find out what the discussions will be, the issues, because it's been unearthed with the rating.
You gave me a 9.
Yeah, let's now go to the main topic. The main topic tonight is, what's the topic?
Yeah, the main topic is, let's allow conflict to make us better rather than bitter, because I know the tendency is, and we've experienced this.
You have to say that right, because sometimes it can sound as in bitter.
Oh, sorry.
It's bitter na. It's bitter. Is that good or bad?
Conflict can make a marriage or a relationship better.
Right. So if with your spouse,
bitter.
pwede tong tongue twister, say better, not bitter. Do that 5 times, fast, go.
Better, not bitter, 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 better, not bitter.
Wow, me.
You go.
Bitter, not bitter. Bitter, not it's the same. Better, not bitter, better, not bitter, better,
Let's
not
not
bitter.
waste people's time.
So, yeah, we won't waste your time. We're getting a little loopy. But yeah, when you do the ratings, it'll help you see that there might be something wrong. And when there's something wrong, the first thing you need to remember in conflict is something my dad said to me many years ago when I was getting ready to get married. He said, have you had stress or conflict in your relationship? Di pa kami married, no? And I said, yes. Why? He said, good. I said, good. He said, yes, because when you experience stress and conflict, you will see a lot of things about the other person. And when you discover those things, it will help you also learn how to adapt, how to adjust, how to resolve it. Or if you're not yet married, whether indeed you should get married, to be very honest, right? Because the way we handle stress and conflict reveals a lot of things. So the first thing we want to talk about is, as we look at better versus bitter, is to embrace it. Conflict is inevitable. I like to say in any movement, there will be friction.
So if you are
when you come together and you're now moving in a direction, there will be friction. So better, not bitter.
And also because really this is spiritual warfare, right? The evil one is always out to divide relationships, to cause division, to cause issues in marriage, to polarize us from our spouse. So we would need to be aware that conflict can really make us bitter, or it can make us better, because God uses all things for good.
Yeah, there really is only 2 options if you really think about it. And that's why I think it's phrased like that. There is no it's it'll either make you bitter or better, and you have to choose. Right?
And I think the reason why we were kind of inspired to talk about this tonight is because as we have been counseling couples, this is really a big hurdle, right? Not being able to resolve conflicts in a healthy way,
and therefore becoming bitter.
right? And then to the point where they don't want to talk to each other anymore because they feel like we can't have a normal conversation. We just don't see eye to eye. We don't get each other. So that when it gets to that point, right? There's a part of you that wants to just resign and be like, you know what, forget this. I give up. So so that's why we feel that it's really critical to work on how you can resolve conflicts in a healthy way. And when we were first married, we really were not good at this, right?
Yes.
How did we resolve conflicts
We
before?
were very not good at it. Wow. So let's do that now. So I gave our marriage a rating of 9.
Yeah.
You gave it a 10. The reason it's a 10 is because you're just a happy person.
Well, yeah, I am a happy person, but it's because we
Most
also
of the
got to
time.
we already got to discuss some of the major issues that we were working through in the past weeks, right? I think honestly, being locked down with your spouse, with your family members, with people, it's like rats in a cage. At a certain point, you really start to get irritated with each other. Even the small things start to irritate you. So I think because we were able to talk, that made a big difference. But I think if couples are not able to talk, if they can't even get to step 1, it's super hard. So how do you get to step 1?
Yeah. So before you do that, so my rating is a 9.
Yeah, why
Right.
should
So we're gonna show them the process here. The reason it's a 9 for me is I just feel like that line, it's not you, it's me. Been very self-absorbed, right? I think we talked about this. There's so many things that I have to get done, and I'm not able to think about you and how I can make sure that you're okay and that we still preserve these date nights, even if it's at home. It's just there's so much going on, and because of that, that's what's a 9. So what would make it a 10 is obviously if I'm able to focus less on me and how we can engage each other better, things that you enjoy, then it will become a 10. So when we talk about conflict now, this is the segue. Like I shared, this is my issue. The first step, as Joe was asking, is we need to identify, well, what is the issue? Right? That is so easy to say, but might be very complicated to execute. For example, if I give it a 9 and I said, well, you know what, the issue is you. Right? I mean, if I could have said that.
Which could be very well the case.
It could be you. And, I don't like that you're so mean to me and the way you speak to me is very disrespectful. It's very hurtful. Yeah. So tell me the things I did right and wrong with that scenario. You are the reason why it's a 9 and you're disrespectful.
Yeah.
You don't seem to care about me. You don't seem to think about my needs. You've been very selfish this week. Yeah. So what's wrong with that?
Wait, is this true or this pretend?
Pretend lang is pretend. So what is the issue there?
All right. Yeah, so
What is wrong with
automatically the stance is very judgmental
Good.
and combative.
Good.
And that immediately puts a block in communication because naturally we'll become defensive. Because now because nobody wants to.
So how would you respond to that?
I'll be like, what do you mean? What do you mean that I'm selfish? Or what about you? I mean, what about when you did this the other day?
This,
So
this sounds
automatically,
real now. Even your facial expression. So okay, so that's what you would do, right?
right, automatically there will be like that interplay where you try to make each other look worse than yourself, right? But if you come into it, okay, what would be because we're trying to lead up to how you get to the point of actually talking about it.
So the first thing is you focus on the issue, right? So instead of saying what I judge about you and these things, let's focus on the issue. So for me, as I identified, I said the issue is actually that, I have been withdrawn.
Okay,
I have been self-absorbed, right?
But let's make a more normal one, like where you actually really were hurt by something that I did.
Ooh, this is good. Okay.
So where you would actually say, babe, when you did that the other day.
Right. So step 1, identify the issue. And when you identify the issue, make sure you speak from the point of I feel versus you, and do not use always and never. So, you're always disrespectful when I'm around the kids. But yeah, no, don't do that. I could say things like, the issue is this. So I'm going to talk to you like, babe, I felt really disrespected last night, when in front of the kids, I asked them to do something and you totally disregarded it. This is just an example. Okay? This isn't real. So
But
that
that could be something.
yeah, so that would be it. So that is how I'm expressing it. I felt disrespected and I focused on the specific issue, which was when you spoke in front of the kids and totally disregarded everything I had said. Right? So that is focusing on the issue. Instead of saying, hindi kasi Joy, you always do that.
Yeah.
When I say something, you just jump in and you make me look bad.
And then I think
That
as women, right, our tendency also is to be both hysterical and historical.
So this is coming from you. I'm glad you're saying this. Example, what would that look like? Go.
For example, if I was upset with something about you, instead of just focusing on the issue, I could bring back, like, actually literally unearth.
Example. Let's say I did something that hurt
let's
you.
say pretend I'd be like, do you remember like 10 years ago? No, seriously.
You've done that. You have done that. So I'm laughing.
So 10 years ago, remember the time when we were sitting with my parents and I
so
said
real.
something and you did not acknowledge blah, 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 or whatever, or you did something that really betrayed me. Let's for example, and I would bring it up, even though we'd already talked about it and maybe we asked for forgiveness from one another. But see, what happens in our brain is that, and this is because as flawed human beings, right? When you do something that's similar to a mistake that you've done before, I think our tendency is to string all of those events, those emotions and experiences, and all of a sudden now make the issue really complicated.
Yeah. And you start fighting and getting more heated about the things that are no longer the issue. Like, what do you mean 10 years ago? I thought we covered that. And then you'd be like, well, no, because that's how you are. You're not changing. So
we say statements like that.
And then it
you're
becomes,
not changing.
it snowballs.
You're not improving. Honestly, you're still the same. And I don't know if you're ever going to change.
Right?
So those statements.
And then sometimes may kasama ng tears yan. Tears. Sigawan yan. This is happening. We're just being very honest and real with you guys. So it's important that step one, you focus on the issue. So, hey, babe. And when you focus on the issue, the side tips were, you focus on how you feel. I feel. And when you say, I feel, don't say, I feel you. So, I feel you always do this. Patay. So, I feel disrespected.
Yeah.
Right? Say how you feel.
Because nobody can touch that.
It's how you feel.
It's how you feel.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of making a judgment about what you are and what you do. Right? And then as you now progress, as we said, as you focus on the issue, it's important that you don't go historical and you don't go hysterical.
Right.
You just stay the course.
Calm.
Stay the course.
What do you say to me? Kalma. What do you
Kalma. Relax. So, second thing, once you now have identified the issue and you're trying to practice those things, what's very important for you to become better, not bitter, is you focus on resolution. Do not focus on, okay, na identify na natin yung issue, right? I felt disrespected, right, by what you did last night when I was saying something and you totally disregarded it from the kids. What can happen next is we now try and unravel this issue by focusing on who is right.
And who is wrong.
Yeah. So I can say, this is the problem with you. Whenever you do those things, you're not doing your roles properly. I mean, haven't you been reading your Bible properly? Or is there something wrong?
Or a woman can say, wait, are you even being a spiritual leader?
Yeah.
Like you're teaching a Bible study to the kids, but you're doing the exact opposite?
Right.
I mean, it's like it's hypocrisy.
Yeah, so consider my feelings, right? Consider my feelings. I'm the one who's disrespected here. So that's why you should be doing this. So that's
not healthy.
That's not healthy. And then, or you can be, what's your version? If I explain those things, like, I felt disrespected, blah, blah, blah.
Well, because you're so sensitive. I mean, honestly, your ego is just you need to get over those things.
Nah. It sounds very real. So are you saying there's something wrong with me?
No, so that's how you would not do it, right?
Oh, but I'm practicing. So are you saying there's something wrong with me? When I'm actually expressing how I feel about what you did.
Yeah.
So is it my fault now?
Yeah.
Wait, is it my fault?
I'm confused. Is this a real fault?
It's still the role play. It's the role play. So
I'm getting stressed.
So flip it. So go back. So we're trying to show this is what not to do, right? You're trying to find out who is right. Sino bang tama, sino bang mali. So I'm trying to say, so are you trying to say it's my fault?
So the thing to do would really be instead of saying that or instead of trying to prove that you're right or they're wrong, you start to ask questions, right?
focus on resolution.
Focus
right?
on the issue, focus on resolution.
Step 2, focus on
And
resolution.
because you want to focus on resolution, you want to really get to why they're feeling that way,
Yes.
right? Because that's the only way that you can really now identify how you both can improve and
Yeah.
what you can change.
So let's play it out, right? So instead of thinking about, so here's my feelings and here's why I'm right and here's why you're wrong, instead of doing that, we focus on resolution. So I could say something like, so honey, this is how I felt, right? So what do you think we can do about it? So I was very honest. I felt very disrespected when you did that in front of all the kids. What do you think we can do about it? How do we resolve this?
I don't know.
Sometimes she says that.
Well, okay, honestly, I feel like, oh gosh, I feel like this is a real conversation. Anyway, what I would probably do, which I think that I can improve on, right, would be like, okay, so was it something that I said, or was it my tone?
Very good.
Or was it my manner or my facial expression
Yes.
that made you feel disrespected?
And my answer would be, it's all of the above. It's your tone, it's your manner, it's your facial expression. So at least you identified, right? So
how would you like me to respond next time? Because I also felt badly when you were saying that in front of the kids and I didn't agree. And so my mistake was I lashed out.
And the way you did it, your tone,
and my
your
tone
manner.
was not good. So in the future, if we have like an impasse like that where I don't agree with your statement or your perspective, how would you like me to address it?
Like
so
this.
that
Yeah, I think what's good is if we don't do it in front of the kids, right? So I already said something, you don't agree with what I said, instead of calling it out in front of all of them, you say, okay, honey, nothing happens. And then after that, call me out privately. Hey, honey, at the dinner table, what you said, I don't like what you said and the substance of it, etc., etc. That might be a better approach so that it's not in front of the kids. It doesn't make me look like, I'm losing my authority and position in front of the kids because you disrespected me.
Yeah.
You're calling it out privately, so it's a lot better. It's a lot healthier for us. And then the tone and manner, I think would be important.
Wow, solved.
So
So-
that would be an example,
Yeah.
right? So that's how you would
Now-
work through the solution.
Now, if it can be a more complicated thing, because
Yeah.
this seems like a petty, issue. But for example, if it's really like a betrayal, a major thing, there needs to be a lot of back and forth of like, okay, so this is how it made you feel. I didn't realize that. So what else? Like, what else did you want to say about that? Or there has to be a lot of asking questions, right? To really make the person feel like they can speak what's on their heart, and you're really seeking to understand. Because I think a lot of times, like for us women, for example, if we feel like our husbands are rushing us through the conversation, or they don't have time for this, or they feel annoyed that we are emotional about something, it just makes it a more painful experience, the whole trying to resolve the conflict. But if there's a genuine desire and communication to say things like, oh, so this is how it made you feel. Okay, I understand. Okay, so if that kind of statement, that kind of
Reassurance, what?
are
I'm
you
waiting for
blanking out?
No, I'm thinking about a specific principle
Right.
along what you're saying.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, carry on. Let me just look for this Bible verse.
Yeah, so because what I would say is to help you, what you're talking about is make sure there's some reassurance that
Right.
what you're trying to do is something good for both of you instead of it's just kind of creating tension, right? So what
yeah,
I would
and
do.
acknowledging
Yeah.
the feelings,
Yeah.
the emotions.
So I just want to say two things. Number one is, and I don't always do this, but in the times I do, I think you really appreciate it. When even as we're trying to resolve it, I said, babe, I love you, right? Do I do that?
Yeah.
So I premise it already. So there's a little bit of the security already, and then we,
Not always, but
and
when
then-
your spirit
and
feels
then
it.
after we do that, bakbakan na, and then you can go lash it out and say,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. But it's good to premise that, to say, I want you to know I love you, so that fundamental thing is clear. Now,
Security, yeah.
well, I think what we need to highlight here, the conflict can make you better or bitter. We want to be very honest. These principles, as Joy already said, are really for day-to-day squabbles and issues that really don't need to get out of proportion. But the more painful, hurtful, sinful, right, if you will, actions like infidelity and things like that, we would recommend a whole other approach to dealing with that. And
Yeah.
you were unpacking a little bit of it, but since it's such a loaded
Yeah.
issue resolution all of its own, this is not the right venue, I think.
Right,
to do
with
it.
that one, this is just a quick note.
Yeah, you would need other people to journey
like
alongside
a
you.
mediator, somebody to come
Yes.
alongside you
It's
both.
obviously not going to be something you and your spouse can just say, well, let's focus on the issue here. It's very clear what happened, right? And then you're going to try and be calm and try and bring up the conversation. It's not going to work. So there's a lot more layers there. This is really just for, the reality is, especially with the revived lockdown, just like what happened when it first happened, there's a lot of day-to-day conflict.
Friction,
And as Joy was very honest in sharing, this has been happening to us, been happening to people we know. So just some reminders.
Yeah.
Step 1, identify and focus on the issue. And then step 2, focus on resolution. How can we resolve this and solve this versus who is right?
Yeah.
And what do we do about if you're right or I'm right? That's very important. Yeah.
And can I share as we close, maybe?
Yeah.
You know, I read this earlier, and I think it really,
Go for it, babe. Go.
It really
Go.
convicted me, right?
Step 3. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, conflict with somebody, with our spouse, or with somebody in a relationship, whether it's like a family member or somebody, or maybe even dating, I think ultimately it's really a vertical issue, right? Sometimes if I'm not healthy in the conflict resolution, it's because I'm prideful, or there's something that I'm also holding on to, that I'm not surrendering to the Lord. And so this verse in, oh shoot, I screenshot it, but I didn't, let's get the reference. Psalm 16.
So, good.
Psalm
I was about
16,
to come in. Yeah.
Verse 7. So nice. Proverbs
16,
verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. So that's Proverbs 16, verse 7.
So enemy
in other
could be
words,
your spouse.
yeah.
That's what you're
Sometimes, yeah. No. So in other words, anybody that you're having conflict with, right? If our sincere desire is to please God first, like the things that God has revealed to us, we're obeying. For example, if as a wife, like we're having conflict because I'm obviously insubordinate, disrespectful, not honoring to you, how can we have peace? Because I'm not doing what God has asked me to in His Word, right? Same for you. If you as a husband, you're not applying being understanding, because the Bible says to be understanding towards your wife, nurturing your wife.
Not to stand under, just to be clear.
What?
Understanding, not standing.
Oh, no. Yeah, understand.
Anyway.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the Bible even says that, right? Your prayers are blocked as a man. So in other words, if we are doing our best to really obey God, what we know about how we're supposed to relate to people already, how we're supposed to be, even in our personal lives, in our private lives, then as we come into the conflict resolution, then there's power in resolving the conflict. Otherwise, it's very hard for God to bless the conflict resolution. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so that's
So here's what I wanted to close with. Who starts the conflict resolution? That's the hard question, especially pag mainit, diba? If it's really tense and it's... So my suggestion is, I love the picture of the... I'm not sure that this is scientifically accurate, but I love the picture of the mountain goats. The story goes that when two mountain goats, a mountain is at the ridge, right? So they're at the ridge, the two mountain goats are about to pass each other, but there's no other way to go because they're stuck. Based on the story that I know, the stronger mountain goat will now bow down so that the other mountain goat can go over them, and then they carry on their ways. I'm sharing that because clearly the person who wants to help resolve the conflict will have to be the better person. Like that mountain goat, right? We'll say, okay,
humble
themselves and go and say, let me try and make this conflict, try to resolve this already. And, for the men who are watching this call, I hate to say this, but the Bible says that, we are to be the spiritual leader, which means that whether it's our wife's fault, obviously if it's our fault, we want to resolve it, but even if it's their fault, it generally helps that we initiate and we say, hey, let's talk about this. Because when you do that, and you might want to speak to this, how do you feel?
I feel, of course, I feel like, okay, this matters to him. Our relationship is a priority. So automatically my heart's already softer.
Because even if we both know that you're the person, right?
Yeah. And because I think sometimes, let's just be honest, a lot of times the men, they're the harder ones to really initiate having a conversation with. Like as women, sometimes guys, if they're already hard in their heart or they don't feel like talking about it, it's very hard for us to break that ice and kind of insert ourselves, right? Because you guys also can be very busy, a lot going on. Not that we aren't busy, but so I think that when it comes from the man, it's like, okay, this is serious. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss this, right? Versus,
And you don't always like that, right?
Versus my little inserts where I peek into your door and be like, hey, babe, will you forgive me for earlier? I was wrong. I was not. That's good, but it doesn't really dig. It doesn't really
help resolve.
Yeah, it doesn't really
Superficial.
go as deep. Versus when you say, okay, let's sit down and kids, we lock the door, no coming in, mom and daddy have to talk. So
right, and sometimes magic happens. So, so anyway, we're just hoping that that's helpful for you guys. We know that it's been a little bit stressful because of what's happening here, and our prayer once again is that as you go through the situations of the day to day, conflict can make you better or bitter, and our prayer is it makes you better. We just want to leave you guys with that hope in the Lord, because it can really feel at certain times hopeless when you're in a certain kind of relationship and you keep spiraling back to the same issues, the same conflicts, because you don't really get to talk about it, don't really get to resolve it. And so we hope that you'll realize, you know what, in Christ things can really get better, right? Yep.
Even though we've had a lot of bitter conversations, I think by God's grace
we have become
better. It's like the stock.
Bittersweet.
What's the stock? What's the stock trajectory?
A good stock, right? Goes up and down, but it'll keep going up and up and up. It's like that. So thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll catch you again for another Monday. Do you want to say something? Yeah, and if you guys, you know what, something that's really helped us is just being in a discipleship group or a couples group with other couples where we can grow together and talk about how we can improve, what the Bible has to say about certain issues that we go through. So if you're really genuinely interested in doing that, we have a team now to help us find you guys couples groups that can. Yeah, we do, right? Okay.
They're the ones behind the scenes. Surprise.
Surprise.
No, so I'm saying that by faith. No, seriously, right? We've kind of talked to them about this.
Mentoring couples walking alongside you, especially there might be couples who are going through some major stuff.
Or who need counseling.
Yeah, like we talked about. It's not just a day-to-day issue. So yeah, there's way to help. Join support groups or find mentors. Disciplers is kind of the jargon we use in our local church. But yeah, we'd love to help if we can, however we can. And as you're seeing the ticker here, we're actually going to be doing we're going to try and do another live webinar that's broader. Some of you tried to join the other webinar, which we were kind of working through. So this one will be easier to access. So please, if you have time, join us. We're going to talk more about family. And I really want to talk about time management and marriage and parenting. So God bless everybody. Thank you. Have a good week. Thanks for joining us on another Monday. And thank you to Lorraine and Alyssa, our team. You guys are amazing.